All right, ladies and gents, welcome to our entirely new podcast series. I am the Asian guy from the sunny island of Singapore. You can call me Robot, and she is...
The Irish girl, you can call me Cazmanta, from the cold civilization that is Ireland.
Oh, wow, this podcast is off to a fantastic start. So, Kaz, today, we have so many different topics to talk about.
I know, right?
And we'll be doing all the shows in segments and such. So the first thing I probably want to say is that you might know us as the gaming power couple on Twitch. So you can catch us on Real Asian Robot most days. But today, I'm actually going to be talking about the Godzilla vs. Kong review.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to see the movie today. And I thought, honestly, it was a fantastic movie. But Kaz obviously hasn't seen it yet,
Nope.
so there won't be any spoilers. But what I want to say is that the movie itself, was pretty fucking fantastic. They did Godzilla and Kong really well, and I personally really liked Godzilla. Yeah, I'm a Godzilla fan. But between the two, Kaz, just want to ask you, who do you prefer?
See, now it depends, right? Because and most people who know me know, I absolutely hate monkeys, gorillas, all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the new Planet of the Apes. So I don't know. See, normally I would say Godzilla. But I'd need to see this one to see how well they did Kong in order to be able to say, oh, I prefer this one over the other. But as a standard, I would say Godzilla.
For me, I was going into it definitely as a Godzilla fan. But yeah, I just found it really interesting, which brings me to the whole idea of monster movies. I said that this was going to be a Godzilla vs. King Kong review, but, realistically, I don't want to review too much because I think that would totally spoil the movie. But going into monster movies in general, have you ever had a preference for that?
I love monster movies. Doesn't really matter what the monsters are, I guess. Just once it has a good story, and for me, the story doesn't even really matter. Once it has decent action.
Mm-hmm.
If the action is crap and they spend too much time in the story, then I'll be out of there after half an hour. But I do love monster movies. Yeah, I do love monster movies, but they just have to have... For a monster movie, it has to be all about the action and not about the story so much.
I see. And for me, right, I find myself on the really opposite spectrum to you, because I, personally, I like to have the story and the plot set up. Like, why? I need to have some background. I love the action. And I like to see a lot of action.
I don't mind there being like a background story. I'm just saying that if it's a monster movie, then they need to focus more on the monsters and what's happening with the monsters and what they're doing. Like, I guess that's the one thing that always slightly disappointed me about Transformers. Mm-hmm. I know technically they're robots, but I feel that they spent way too much time trying to come up with a cohesive storyline, and they spent less time on actual action. Mm-hmm. When Transformers fan from a child, all I wanted to see was these robots go head to head. I don't care about the storyline.
That's exactly how I feel about a lot of monster movies, but for me, it needs to still have that underlying story. So for me, I thought Godzilla vs. Kong was done well, but I think that in your case, maybe you might feel a little, it might be a little bit lighter on the action, because there are several fight scenes, don't get me wrong, but, they still take time to develop a story as well.
Well, I think again, and it's going to be monster or robot specific, because depending on what it is, there's going to have to be obviously some kind of story. I think for something like Godzilla versus Kong, there needs to be that human story that explains the situation. For stuff like Transformers, there doesn't need to be a human storyline. There really doesn't, because I think that the storyline between the Transformers would have been enough, with the humans being secondary. But I almost feel like in Transformers, the humans are primary and the Transformers are secondary.
And actually, if we now shift from monster films to Transformers, That is exactly how I felt throughout the entire Transformers series. They did not need any human influence at all, you know, me
Oh,
personally
they
speaking.
really did. They didn't, because I think that the storyline between the Autobots and the Decepticons and the whole Cybertron element of it was enough of a story to just have, like, I understand that it takes place on Earth, so obviously humans have to be involved, but I just feel like I don't care that your man Cade had kids and he couldn't see them and all this stuff happened. Like, we don't need to know any of that. It was so pointless. It was just like, okay, you're going to make a 2.5 hour film. We'll make a 2.5 hour film about these Transformers kicking the shit out of each other because that's what people are here to see.
Yep.
And don't get
And
me wrong, I love a bit of Mark Wahlberg and all the rest of it, and I love that he was in the movie and it was good and he was funny and he was great in it. And I don't, take away the fact that he did such a good job and that I'm so happy he was there. It was just, I think for those specific films, they spent way too much on the human storyline than they did on the Transformers storyline, when that's what everyone was there to see.
yep. And you know what? You're right. Me personally, I've always thought about Transformers, monster films, things like this, as it should be about those larger than life creatures, those big, huge things that we're used to see fighting on screen and stuff like that. And I think that's just important, you know. So
yeah, like for me, Bumblebee doesn't even speak in most of the Transformers movies. He doesn't speak. He has a bigger presence than all of the humans in those movies combined. Like, he doesn't have to be able to speak in order for me to understand what the message or emotion is that he's trying to get across. And I think that they should have kept that to the Transformers with, like, the cartoons and the comic books. The humans should have been secondary. The humans were helping out the Transformers. It was never the Transformers helping out the humans, which is what the movies became.
And that brings me to a point about Godzilla versus Kong, actually, because that humanness, when the creatures don't speak, Kong portrays that really well,
Yeah.
And I feel that they did a really fantastic job on this one, especially with that. And I personally like that portrayal of King Kong,
Yeah, it's like, I know we briefly touched on it, but the Planet of the Apes, like the newer ones, again, ask me, that has a perfect split between the human side of the story and the animal side of the story. Like, there's not too much of the human side of the story, so that it becomes about humans versus these apes or whatnot. It's about what the humans did and are going through, and it's about these, gorillas, apes, whatever.
Yeah, the intelligent
what they've gone through. Yeah, like they got the balance in those movies so well. And even though, like, the main gorilla character or whatever he is, because I fucking hate movies, but I do enjoy those movies, don't get me wrong. But it's the emotion on their faces when they're, because he's one of the main ones that can talk, and he teaches some of the others how to talk. But even before he learns how to talk, and even though the other ones, some of them can't talk, you can still understand and read the emotions and what they're trying to portray on their faces.
Yep.
But those movies got that story spot on, that it's a perfect mix of humans and apes and gorillas. Do you know what I mean? Like, they got it perfect, so that it doesn't focus on one storyline too much for too long. It's evenly spread. For me, it kept my attention. Like I said, I like them, even though they're just not my animals.
We need to watch them. We need to watch them again, at some point. I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, because they are good movies. I would watch them again and again.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to watching them with you. Then we can probably do a more detailed review. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think for me, the point really is that you can have something that you don't even like to look at and still really enjoy it and want to watch it again and again, versus a movie like Transformers, for instance, where, as much as I love Transformers, I will fast forward to the fight scenes just so I can see the robots kick each other's ass. Like, I don't care about human elements, because the story was so irrelevant to the actual story of, why these robots are fighting each other and what the whole issue with Cybertron was. Like, I would just fast forward the human element of it and just get to the robots. Like,
yep.
Whereas Whereas with Planet of the Apes, I'm interested in the whole story because they did it so well.
I agree, and you know, bringing it back to Godzilla and Kong, actually, I felt that they did this one really well in that regard as well. That okay, I'm not gonna lie. At the start of the movie, I was kind of like, I don't really give a shit what these humans are doing. I'm here to see Godzilla and Kong kick ass, but I got invested. I got invested. So
well, that's the thing.
So I felt that the startup was a bit slower, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and when they can create something that really gets you invested, I think that's when I will say the movie has done a good job, and that's when I will usually say, okay, I think Kaz might like seeing this.
That's the thing. If you can get a movie that is technically a monster movie and has the human element, but it can still draw you in, and you can still walk away going, you know what, at the start I wasn't invested, but my God, that was a great movie. Like if you can walk away and you feel like that about the movie, and you're excited to see it again,
100%.
or you're excited to see it with someone else, then they have done a good job.
Yep, I think that they really have. In fact, that is what actually, because although I'm a Godzilla fan, I haven't seen any of the more modern Godzilla ones. I know him primarily from references to his Japanese-made films, Mothra, Ghidorah, and all that. You know. Me
too. See, I haven't seen any Godzilla films from any recent times. The last Godzilla film was like a stop motion type Godzilla movie from
Gojira!
maybe because my mom loved all those like Japanese type films, so that was the Godzilla we grew up with.
Fair enough. Yeah.
My favorite and the only King Kong movie I've successfully ever sat through and watched more than once was Peter Jackson's King Kong, which came out a few years ago. That one again, though, Peter Jackson is so good with that kind of stuff that like if I hear his name on something, I will trust it 1,000,000% because I know how good he is. But again, he was able to mash that human element with the monster element so well that you're invested after the first like maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, because you want to see how this is going to play out. And even though you know the bones of the story, like you know kind of what's going to happen because it's just a typical King Kong movie. It's the action and the storytelling that's so breathtaking that you just have to keep, like, it's so, you're compelled to watch. You're compelled to get to the end to see what happens. And I think if you have a good storyteller and a good director who's able to put those two things together, then you have an absolute instant smash on your hands.
I think you're right about that. And that brings me to the final point of this segment. I'll tell you, ladies and gents, although we gave no spoilers, I think you can tell by the way we're selling it, Godzilla vs. King Kong is worth your time. I would definitely want to see you guys watch that film. And of course, don't forget to leave comments on this podcast when it happens. Hello to you, technical difficulties. We are actually streaming this live on Twitch. I know I forgot to mention this at the start, but you may hear us answering chat from time to time on these podcasts because we basically plan on doing them live whenever this lovely lady is home, so I can capture her. Now, what we're gonna have is a short musical interlude. So, you know, I've also figured that this would be a nice little segment to add to the podcast, where I can play either my music or somebody else's music. Today, it's gonna be mostly my music. But Kaz, if you don't mind, what we're gonna do is that I'm gonna mute my microphone. She's gonna mute her microphone, right? I'm gonna play the song, and then when she hears me calling her again, okay, then we'll come back on. You know. You all right with that, Kazi?
Of course.
All right, then let's do the mutings now. And ladies and gents, I'm going to play one of my songs for you. It is No Love, my current hit single. Don't forget, you can support me on Soundcloud if you are interested. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about a topic that many of you might be familiar with. It is anxiety. All right, and I just had an experience today, and we're going to go through that in a little while. So, time for a musical interlude. Right, we are back. Hope you enjoyed that little musical interlude. That was No Love, and it is one of my own tracks, but if any of you want to get your music played on my stream, don't forget you can let myself and Kaz know, and we'll play it during the musical interlude. This is the SoundCloud link, so if you want to support me, that's where you can go to play my track. Now we're moving on to the second segment of this first podcast. So for those of you hearing this on YouTube, SoundCloud, or other platforms, we're actually going to be discussing anxiety, and I'm here with the lovely Irish lady Kaz. Kaz, you back?
Hi.
Good. Now, when it comes to anxiety, Kaz knows me. I'm very confident when I'm on stream because obviously, you know, as a streamer, I have to portray that overwhelming sense of confidence in whatever I do. You know, I just, you know, bulldoze my way through things because I feel that if you have that confidence in yourself, you know, it builds something that other people can see and feel. But anxiety is very real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I go through a lot of it, and Kaz is there to see it. So I think I'll start this thing off by asking, you know, Kaz, how are you feeling anxiety-wise these days?
It's day by day. Today I'm okay, even though I'm a bit under the weather. I'm okay, but my anxiety seems to. There's two real times when mine kicks off. One, in and around when I get my period, you know, like my depression and anxiety intertwine and mess with my week. And the other time it kicks off is really unexpected because there are times where, and I'm sure most people who suffer with anxiety will understand, you can be sitting there and be absolutely fine, out of nowhere you'll just get this overwhelming anxious feeling, and you might not know why, you might not understand it. You know, some people have, you know, like physical attributes where like they might start shaking, or they just don't like you just don't understand what's happening. And then, you know, you've got the other end where, you know, you may be waiting for something, or, you know, you may have done something and it can seriously affect what you do and how you do it. Like, so for me, an example is a couple of weeks ago, I made a mistake at work. It wasn't a huge mistake. It was easily fixed. But for a good 3 days, I could not let go of that feeling. So that anxiousness for 3 days, until I finally understood, okay, you know what, this is actually okay. I'm okay. It wasn't a big issue. I blew it up into I was in tears. I was really upset about it. And it really affected the week that I had. Because normally I'm like, and it happened on a Monday, which meant, you know, Tuesday and Wednesday
which meant
really
I didn't see you for the entire week. You
exactly,
know,
right? Because
the whole Twitch power couple didn't actually do anything together for a week, I think.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it can just consume everything that you do because you just cannot let it go. Because for me, I have to let it work its way through before I can stand back and go, okay, now I can put that down and I can walk away from it and I'm okay now.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
It really that whole week for me.
And, you know, again, I completely, fully understand. You know, because that is how I can tend to feel sometimes, especially with recent shenanigans that have gone on, as well as you know, what I would say is that for me personally, okay, one of the biggest things is signing up for the exams recently, and it was very difficult because I needed to really go in and sort of face my demons. I just did that before stream. It didn't shake me up or anything, but sometimes clicking the button can feel so heavy. It's like you've got one of these, like, you know, you just don't know whether or not you're actually going to be able to click that button or not, you know. And I think that many of you out there probably have similar experiences. So, you know, Technical Difficulties was saying that he had gone through a bit of fight or flight himself and felt like he had a heart attack. Probably his anxiety peaked. If you want to share more, you know, tell us.
Yeah, no, I absolutely feel that Technical Difficulties. It does. It gets so consuming and it just overwhelms all of your senses. And something that might seem so small and so trivial to somebody else is such a huge deal to you. And I find that people who don't understand, because I do believe to a degree that everybody suffers from some form of whether it be depression or some kind of mental illness and anxiety, they just don't understand what it is that they're feeling. So most of the time they push it off and they're like, oh no, I'm fine, like, it's okay. But for the rest of us who understand what it is that we're feeling, and I think the more you understand, the more the feelings intensify, because you know what to expect, and you know that it's coming. And when you get those first little tingles, you're like, okay, here we go. And so you're expecting it. And I think because you're expecting it, that also makes your anxiety and everything else spike along with it. And so I do feel that for those of us who understand what we suffer with, it is worse, because we know what it is, we know when it's starting, we don't know how long it's going to last, and therefore that makes everything spike. And sometimes I wish I didn't understand it, so that it wouldn't affect me as much. But you know, on days like today when I'm able to sit down and talk about it, I'm so happy I understand it.
You're absolutely right about that.
Even for you before stream, when you sent me that message and you were like, okay, I'm gonna do this, can you come do it with me? I knew straight away, it's like, okay, he's super anxious about this, I need to be there. And so I stopped doing them straight on the call. I was like, right, come on, let's go, let's do this. Because sometimes you do just need that other person to go, right, come on, let's do this, in order for you to have the courage to just hit that button. And after, like, as you said, once you did it, regardless of what it was and what the result was, you were okay.
And when I was, you know, and what I would say is that, you know, also I want to say to technical difficulties, he said it was a rough night. You know, we watched 2 people pass away, so my deepest condolences for that. You know, our thoughts are with you and yours. And don't worry, I promise I do not have that ugly virus.
He doesn't have the Rona. He doesn't have the Rona.
What I did was well, due to my anxiety, I choked on my own saliva. Man, like, okay, I'm kidding. It wasn't my anxiety. I was actually just, you know, teasing the shit out of Kaz, and then did that to myself. But
he was teasing me for coughing and then started coughing himself, and hasn't been able to get over it since weeks.
Yeah, I know, but it's okay. You love my weakness. So
I do.
the whole thing about anxiety is that, you know, it's just, I think some people don't even know that they suffer from it and that they have to deal with it. So, you know, what I want to say is that if those of you out there who might be suffering with it, make sure you leave a comment on this podcast, and maybe we can do another section on it, you know, because I'd love to expand on this topic in more detail. Like, I knew I made it only like a half segment, but maybe, you know, if you get enough responses, or if people, you know, really want to amplify the discussion on it, you know, maybe we could do like a full section on it, definitely. You know, especially because Kaz has so much experience with it and so much to offer, you know, insight wise on it. And it's definitely not something we can cram into 15 minutes, but you know, I was just intending on this to be a taste, but that was really insightful, and I just had deja vu. I don't know why. Okay, wow. I'm in the Matrix again. I often have it in these strange moments, you know. But for some reason, right, my deja vu lowers my anxiety. It's like, okay, wait a second. Maybe the dark gods have planned this for me. My moment of glory.
You know what it could be? It might not be a case of deja vu, but maybe it's just your own body's way of saying, bro, you've been here before. You're okay. And in that, what you're interpreting as deja vu is what calms you, because that's your body's way of saying to you, dude, you're okay. Stop. Relax.
Or I could just believe that I'm a Jedi, and clearly the Force is telling me that, yes, this is the moment that I will find my greatest success. Strong with the Force I am. A Jedi I am. A Jedi you will be.
Technical difficulty said I felt that with depression when I learned about it and came to terms with the diagnosis. It felt like it had been a depression. I wasn't aware I was living with it. Right, see, that's right, that's the thing. And so I think, just to hit on depression for a couple of minutes, I won't stay on it too long, but I think people generally who don't suffer with depression or don't realise that they suffer with depression, a lot of people tend to think that people who do suffer with depression are just sad for whatever reason, right? And they're like, oh, come on, get over it. But my response to that is, depression is only just feeling sad, and there are so many signs So if you know someone who is normally a neat person and all of a sudden you walk into their house super messy, they're going through an episode, right? If somebody has locked themselves away in their room and they're just not communicating with people, they're going through an episode. If somebody who's normally, dressed at the crack of dawn and they're, really good with their time and they're efficient and all the rest of it, and all of a sudden that goes to the wayside and maybe they haven't bathed in a couple of days, or, maybe they haven't washed their hair for a week, they're going through an episode. There are so many signs.
Mm-hmm. And having awareness of those signs, I'd say is something that, y'all should definitely do if you have friends that suffer with it. All right, if you have friends that have these tendencies, like Kaz knows about me. I don't suffer from it per se, but I do have my moments where she knows that she needs to be around me,
Right.
And she does.
And I flip that and say the same about you. Like, there are times when he realizes I'm on my way down, and I don't even realize I'm on my way down, but he can tell by how I'm talking, about my tone of voice, about the words I'm using, with the tone. Like, he knows, but sometimes before I do, which is so helpful for me, because if he asks me, and it's always kind of off string, he'll do it. He'll be like, "You were speaking this way today. Are you okay?" And I'd be like, "Actually, you know what? I don't feel okay right now."
Yep.
And it's not until even sometimes he brings it to my attention that I go, "Okay, I'm heading down here." At least I know he's aware, which is such a big deal and such a huge relief for me, because when I do have those moments where, and he knows, and I'm not scared to say it, there are times I will act out in an aggressive manner, and it's not, we'll have an argument and I'll start the argument and it will be for the most ridiculous thing, but he'll understand.
And in the
that
background
I'm not,
you hear Jerry. All right.
No, I just appreciate the fact that you understand that it's not me just trying to start a row. It's just that I've got all these feelings and emotions.
Listen,
and
I know
all this going on, and that you understand the underlying tone of that isn't that you've done something. It's me trying to focus on what it is that's bothering me or my depression in order to come back up.
Yep. And I understand that, and I know that you do the same thing for me. Sorry, you cut out there a little bit, but what she said was basically that she appreciates me. So we do go through a lot of that. And before I just end this segment for the people listening on other platforms and on YouTube, what I would say, Technical Difficulties wrote that for him it's the same with anxiety. He'd been suffering from it since childhood, but he wasn't aware of what it was. And it happened so often that it was like a daily part of his life. And I feel that there are so many people out there who, like me, because I grow up in a traditional Asian society, you don't really get that kind of experience with it, but we're actually going to make that the topic of our very next podcast. So for those of you tuning in from YouTube, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you are on other platforms, be sure to follow us. All right, because every time you play our podcast, listen to one of these, it helps us out. All right, so be sure to tune in. Wait, what did you say on that one? I'm sorry, I think I talked over you.
Yeah, when you said every time you follow, I said an angel gets their wings.
Yes. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna tell you right now. This is coming from the voice of the Lord Himself. Okay. Every time you listen to my podcast, every time you listen, an angel gets their wings, and by the Lord, you will be saved if you listen and follow this podcast right now. So thank you guys so much for listening to our first episode. We did a monster movie review. We talked about anxiety. We're actually going to record the next episode right now. So see you on the next one. And don't forget to keep tuning in, all right? This is an Asian guy and Irish lady talk. We'll see you on the next one, okay?